Welcome everybody to a new episode of Flower Circus Talks. Today, after Friday having a great show, we have a very special guest from the United States, Williee Armellini, a great guy. I think everybody have seen him on a trade show. A man with a strong opinion and a great website, Flowers and Scents. So check out the website, and Willie's here to tell all about his website and all the adventures he had in the floral industry. So let's welcome Willie into the live stream. Willie, welcome.
There I am. Goedemiddag.
Goedemiddag. Finally, a man with a head as well.
The hat has become irreplaceable. If I don't wear the hat, people don't recognize me. So
Yeah.
it's an important part of my attire.
Yeah, I know the problem a bit.
Yeah. When I cut my hair off, I had long hair for a long time, and I cut the hair off, and if I take the hat off, forget nobody. Even my wife has a hard time knowing who I am.
Oh, look, Marco Groot van Heel Verdaad de Boer USA is saying goedemiddag as well.
Goedemiddag. Hoe gaat het, Marco?
Yeah, we can almost do everything in Dutch, I think, the whole interview.
Hardly. My Dutch is just enough to say hello and how are you. That's about the extent of it.
But that's more than enough.
Yeah, when in Dutch, if you can say Schiphol, then you can speak Dutch almost.
Yeah, Schiphol and Scheveningen. That's the two parts. And the other words we just forget.
Yes. Well.
So can you tell us a bit more about yourself for the people who don't know you yet?
Sure. Well, look, I was born in the flower business. My family, Armellini, is a big trucking company and logistics company that has been around since 1945. So my mom and dad started the business back in 45. And like I say, I was sort of born into the business. I used to think I was in the flower business when in fact we were in the trucking business. Like I said, we didn't go to flower or trucking conventions. I went to flower conventions.
Okay.
So we were so involved with the flower business and still are, the family, that it was inseparable. We were certainly part of the flower business.
Yeah.
And so I sort of grew up in there. I ended up moving to Miami. I got married. My dad says, "Okay, 2 weeks later, you're moving to Miami. We need help." So I packed up and moved to Miami back in '78, and lived here for another 20 years. And then I ended up moving to Orlando and different things. But to go along my path, I was president of the company, of Armellini, and for a few years we made a lot of changes that were probably necessary. And then hey, look, I'm not the oldest son in an Italian family, so we had to make some changes back. And my dad took over again with my brothers, and I said, okay, let me go do something different.
Yeah.
It was a pretty perhaps bold and crazy move, but anyway, I left the family business and went off on my own with a little adventure. I ended up starting a sleeve making business, a capachon, or the plastic sleeves that go for bouquets. So I had a factory and was making sleeves.
Okay.
Sleeves. And that went on for a few years, and that didn't work out very well. So I said, all right, close the factory, let's do something else. So I was sort of wandering around trying to figure out what to do. And an old friend had called me up from Orlando, and he said, hey, we need to put this on, this internet thing is getting big. Let's put the flowers on the internet. So we created a company called Floraplex. And it was under a brand of World Commerce Online, wonderful name.
Yeah.
And we did a startup, and we started it up and ended up getting some venture capital money, and but we were too early. This is late 90s. We were too early. I ended up basically explaining what the internet was to most of the people I was trying to entice to use this program. It was just too early. So the whole thing sort of went bust. But in the meantime, well, I'll back up a moment. In the meantime, what happened basically is that there was a company that came in, a venture capital company called USA Floral Products.
Yeah.
Late 90s. Came in and was buying up all these companies. They bought a number of the big importers here in Miami. They bought some big wholesalers around the country, and they were trying to put it all together under one umbrella and essentially and flip it over. They were trying to get to $1 billion in sales, and then they wanted to flip it over and make some money on the venture capital.
Yeah.
From Malta, somebody's watching from Malta.
Yes, it's from Malta, and we've got Alison saying, "Please don't do it in Dutch." Hi to you both, especially to Willie. We will not do it in Dutch, but you already noticed, Alison. We can't do it in Scottish, but.
Hello, Alison. Yes. Good morning.
Araceli, good morning.
Good morning. People are checking in. I can't believe people watch this. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Two men with a hat.
Yeah. So continuing along, basically, this company bought up all these companies, and it was just making a mess of everything. And in the process, somebody put up a chat room in Yahoo for finance, and basically it was a place for the people that were hyping the stock, the investors.
Yeah.
And they were saying, buy this stock. It's going to be a great company. Buy this stock. Buy this stock. And it finally did go public. And there was an immediate evaluation. It looked pretty good. But this anonymous chat room in the Yahoo world had a beautiful array of people that were posting. Hundreds of people, I think, at some point were posting. But what happened is that the employees of these companies that were being purchased all along, who were one day competitors, the next day they were partners, supposedly, they were posting, "These people are crazy. They don't know what they're doing. This thing's going to blow up. They're buying too many. It's a mess." And as a result, after some period of time, it went bankrupt, or they closed it or whatever. Didn't work. So suddenly I had all these people. Most people knew who I was, I think. But we didn't know who. There was so many people we didn't know who they were, and it was a very active chat room. So anyway, what happened was that it became very difficult to get to that chat room. So I said, okay, this is a moment in time. I was working on the internet. I knew a little bit about the internet. I said, let's put up a website. So I put up a website called, at the time, I don't know if it was called Flowers and Scents, but I think back in 2001, I put up this website. Yeah. And as a result, I said, everybody come here. So for the most part, they did. And it went on, and it was a very active blog. And it got me in a lot of trouble because there was people, again, the anonymity of it was allowed people to be very free with their expressions and their thoughts. And but anyway, it worked well until at one point I lost track of the software. It was just free software, and they couldn't make it work. So I put up a new site, and when I put up a new site, it was I made it more of a magazine. Yeah. Because you remember, I started this in 2001, prior to Facebook. So,
some people can't even believe it, but pre-Facebook.
There was a time when there was no Facebook. Yeah. So as Facebook took over and the other social media took over, people were, blogging less. There were just so many other distractions. So I looked back and I said, people are more interested in the news, perhaps, and not so much into the gossip. And I was sort of happy to get out of the gossip part of it. So what happened, at one point, I had a customer not a customer, I got a reader called me up and said, "Hey, I want to buy an ad on your website." And I said, "I don't sell ads. I have." Yeah. He said, "Well, look, I'm going to send you $50, put my logo on your website." I said, "Okay." And then once somebody saw that, and another person called me, "Hey, I want to be on their website. And blah, blah, blah." And before too long, I had a whole bunch of people that wanted to advertise on my website. What a beautiful.
Yeah, great.
So, people started sending me money and asking to be on there, and it got a bit more elaborate. And as you know at this point, or perhaps don't know, I was fortunate enough to be having this vehicle that people started inviting me to go to their shows.
Yeah.
all around the world. I think originally I just started showing up, and then people said okay, and I started taking pictures with my camera and making little videos, and
Yeah.
it became popular. So since you threw up there on Flowers and Scents, I'll digress a little bit. So Flowers and Scents again is just a news website.
Yeah.
I publish whatever I can find about flowers. I generally publish there in the what it says, the forum recent topics. That's sort of the quick read. And the articles that I write are along the top there with the pictures.
Yeah.
Or if there's another article that doesn't mean I have to write them. But anyway, if there's something more important, I put it up there, particularly if it needs pictures and such.
Yeah.
And I have a directory and a calendar. The calendar's been quite a challenge this year. I've been postponing and pushing dates and pushing dates and pushing dates and canceling dates. And
yeah, because in the calendar there's all the trade shows, right?
Yes, all the trade shows and whatever else I could find that was relevant to flowers, holidays and such. But again, right now it's been just cancellations and push and push and push. But I have a directory. I have a wonderful. There's a nice flower library of photos. Yeah. That's done by the people in Georgia up there. They put together this nice website. It's it was too difficult. Nobody wants to do a flower image website. It's not easy. Yeah. Browsers are different. The backlighting, the type of lighting. So they've done a really nice job of doing it consistent as it can be.
Yeah, that's a hell of a job to make a good website like that. Yeah.
And we know there's 100 new varieties every year that you have to put on the website. You take the old ones off, and it's a tremendous amount of maintenance. So I just link to their site, but it's very nice.
For your agenda, by the way, the 5th of June, you can put in there that there's another Flower Circus online show.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I'll put that down.
Yeah. Actually, James Roberts is saying hello as well.
Hello there.
Wim Bos is saying hello from the Netherlands. Caroline Marshall Foster, greetings, dear heart, from sunny London.
Oh, my friend Caroline. Okay. Well, I'm glad to see a lot of my friends are here. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a strange world. We've got coronavirus everywhere. The sun is shining in London, so it's the world upside down.
And Caroline is having fun being like a little agent walking around with her camera everywhere.
Yeah, or on her bicycle going around.
I haven't kept her off the street yet.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of what's going on. And here I am. So I wanted to point out that I told you I've been going to conventions. I didn't get told you yet, but since I was 14, I think my parents started taking me to conventions. And I didn't save these, but I'm going to show you something here. My wife has asked me why in the world would I have saved all of these. Where am I? Look.
Yeah.
I have been to conventions and conventions and conventions and conventions, and I have press passes, and that's very impressive. I'm very happy to have press passes.
Yeah, no, I can see. I mean, you told your wife one day I'm going to do an interview with Flower Circus, and then I'm going to show them.
Well, she's been, as she pointed out this morning, she said, I threw about half of those away, and I'm like, oh man. Well, it's pretty good because if I had any more on, I'd be falling over. But this is sort of my uniform, and I like it. So I'm happy. I don't know quite how we're going to do this until shows start happening again, but I like to tell people that I have a wonderful job because everybody says, what do you do? And I say, well, I have a great job. I take pictures of pretty girls and pretty flowers all around the world. I put them on our website, and people send me money. So everybody wants to be my partner.
Yeah. You can tell your wife that Aracelia thinks it's cool to have all the press passes. So
not quite sure what I'll do with them now, but anyway, I'll keep hanging them up, and they're sort of my badge of honor. I mean, it took a long time to create this silly, whatever I am, floral personality, whatever they call me, a journalist. I don't know anything about journalism. I leave journalism to Floral Daily and those people. They do real journalism, and I'm sort of a hack that just has a camera and Well, being around so long, I've been around the business all my life, so people know me, or at least know what I look like, and I'm very honored that for the most part, people always tell me they're very happy with what I write. And I guess at the same time, I'll point out what I found out about the website. Oh, Claudia there again. Yeah, I don't think I got my proportions right there, but okay, she looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't. My wife is not jealous, so it's a good thing.
That helps.
It helps. What I learned was also when I changed the website to a bit more of a magazine.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the traffic I was getting. I used to get tons of traffic when it was more of a blog. And so what I did was, you know what? I saved business cards for so long. So I started sitting down with all my back to every show. I'd sit down with all the business cards and magazines and whatever brochure I got that had email addresses, and I built a database. And I went back to my cards. And I went back so far that cards that didn't have email addresses, because there wasn't any email.
Yeah.
Which again points out how long I've been around. But I've created a list of about 7,500 flower people in the world. For the most part, they're South American, U.S., Canada, and probably Holland more than any place else. But the readership has been quite good, and people say they like what I write. I only send out about one email a month, unless there's really something happening, which has been a bit more lately. Because people say, look, when I see your email, I read it because I don't get too many. You're short, you're to the point, you don't have any bias. That's what people always tell me, that I'm neutral. I don't have any bias. I'm pretty easy to, well balanced, perhaps.
Yeah, that's true. I also received them, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's not like spam. It's coming every day, or even a couple of times a week. It's there. It's good news. It's short. You got the time to read it. It's not like you're reading it for an hour. So that's great. And even Juan Naranjo saying, "Hi Willie, nice website you have. Keep it up." Hopefully he gets your newsletters as well. And otherwise, subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah, or just go on the website and register, and I'll put you in the newsletter. Or it's pretty simple. Otherwise, it's willie@flowersandcents.com if you want to send it to me.
Yeah. You also did a survey just after the Mother's Day to ask people how the Mother's Day was. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, and I'm afraid to go look at the result at the moment. I should have looked early this morning. But basically, when I just put out a quick, and it said, great, better than expected, good, not so good, terrible. And I don't know, last I looked, there was 60 or 70 votes. It's not a lot, but I think it represents something, and it's a pretty broad group.
Yeah.
And basically everybody said, wow, it was way better than expected. That was the sort of the basic feeling, that everybody, the pent-up demand and the fact that they could get flowers, whether they did as good as last year, or probably not. The margins probably weren't as good, but clearly it was, as my last email said, it was all about empty buckets. Every place that I looked and photos I looked at, everybody was so proud to see their coolers empty buckets.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, we need to see it a little bit in proportion. They didn't order the amounts that they did last year, but still, the Easter time was not good. That's why people went down in volumes.
Yes.
But still, what they brought in, they sold, and they sold it. I heard a big online sales company. He was already sold out on Tuesday before Mother's Day.
Wow. Yeah, the challenge was really getting the flowers. The logistics sort of broke down a little bit, and nobody really knew what to order. Everybody was sort of speculating and didn't want to speculate too much, because you don't want to be stuck with not empty buckets.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I mean, the air freight, that's, I think, the most difficult part at the moment. I don't know how it is between states in the US with trucking, but yeah, the air freight is a problem.
Yeah, well, fortunately, there's good truck lines that run, and so the trucking worked really well. That part worked. The good news about at least my family is that trucks can haul more things than flowers. So when it suddenly stopped and there was no flowers or very minimal flowers moving, they could haul produce and plants and different things and
Yeah.
try to keep the drivers busy because that's their main asset is having drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they could drive with all the toilet paper that everybody really needed.
And I'm sure we hauled some toilet paper back to South Florida here. So it was crazy time. So, and as we know, all the airlines, as I've pointed out in my blogs before, that the airlines, suddenly they had lots of cargo. It wasn't flowers. So they diverted the planes to all these different places to haul the PPE stuff and the toilet paper and whatever else they could, medicines and different things. So they've all been busy hauling freight.
Yeah.
And when it was time for the flowers to come, they basically said, okay, look, when you get a whole plane load in Bogota or Quito or Medellin, we'll fly the plane in and move it out. But that's totally, unusual compared to normally, okay, we got 5 planes leaving today, just get your flowers here.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think if we tell that it wasn't a normal Mother's Day, that's a little bit of an understatement.
That is an understatement.
Yeah. But he also told there was a big bouquet maker. He did a lot.
I interviewed a big bouquet maker. I'll leave him nameless, but it's one of the largest ones here. And he said, look, it was rough. My cost was incredibly high. I had to charter planes and do different things and do things that were very unnatural and expensive. But we were only 10% down over last year. Not, they had predicted a 10% increase. So I guess in general they were 20% down, but to be only 10% down versus last year is impressive, I think.
Yeah, it really is, especially when you're considering the Easter, which was
not so good.
Not so good. Yeah, also an understatement.
Yeah, and one of the byproducts of this, John, was that I'm used to getting flowers for free, okay, because I have enough friends in the business, and somebody will give me a box of flowers and say, here, so I have, my neighbors are all very happy.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the value, perhaps, as you might if you buy them. So when this all happened, I said, hey, we got to support the industry. Let's buy flowers. If you can find them, let's go buy them. So I told my wife, buy flowers every week. Go ahead. When you go to the store, get flowers. And she did. And has continued to do so. And, having flowers in the house, I have to admit, particularly when you buy them, and then you see the value in them. And my house, our house, has been, a nice place, warmer. We're stuck here. And I think that's going to be what we're going to see. That's why I think the garden center sold out, and why a lot of things sold out, because people were stuck at home. So give me something nice, pretty, that I can put in my house that looks alive.
Yeah, that's something we see everywhere. I mean, the garden centers. Luckily, they opened again in the UK because they were closed.
Right.
But people really want to do something in their garden. They want to do something in their house with flowers. That's a big positive thing coming out of the COVID-19, I think. Something unexpected as well for most of us. But I think we need to keep this up. I mean, as a whole industry, to tell the people, look, you were at home, you were sad, but you bought flowers and you feel better.
Yeah, in this time, I think that's sort of what we can do. What can we do? We can buy some flowers and enjoy them. So, as I mentioned earlier, there's I heard a nice analogy. People said, in terms of the COVID in our current situation of life, there's a past and a future. The present is sort of in limbo. It's sort of a haze.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, actually. James is telling the garden center at Lowe's, very busy yesterday.
Yeah, all over.
People are reinventing their garden again. They think, it's not only the place to park your cars, it's also where you can have some plants as well.
Yeah, and I think people will be growing more of their own. And then we're going to learn about why you have to use fertilizer and pesticides sometimes. So,
yeah,
if you put your plants out there in the garden, the bugs are real happy to eat them. So
that's also a good one. Yeah,
becoming a farmer is not so easy.
No, otherwise everybody should be would be a farmer, and that's why a lot of people have their cars in the in the garden and leave the gardening up to the growers.
Yeah, and that was cool when you could get everything you need. But as we know now, there's no more shopping. You're selecting.
Yeah,
You go
yeah,
in,
that's a good
you see what
good
you
move.
want. You don't pick it up and test the fruit or look at 2 or 3 samples. You go in, you know exactly what you want. You get out of the store because shopping is no fun anymore. It's not
Yeah,
shopping. It's just selecting, like I say.
yeah, the whole shopping changed, and that's what you hear from some retailers as well. Normally, the weekends in terms of flower sales were of course the peaks, and now it's just flat. I mean, the sales are there, but every day they sell more or less the same because people are spreading more when to buy.
Yeah,
Maybe avoiding other people as well. Maybe that's the case. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah,
Tough time to be a retailer trying to figure out what to put on the shelves.
yeah. But they have so many figures, I think, and clever people there. They can change quite quickly. I think if you have a brick and mortar store, it's going to be more difficult to get the people in. I mean, people are now quickly getting out of their houses only buy what's necessary. And if flowers and plants are there in the supermarket, it's easy. But to go into an extra store, uh,
Yeah, it's an extra mask, perhaps, or
yeah,
it's yeah, it's difficult. But I, I believe that the distribution chain has been disrupted and has perhaps forever changed. Yeah, there'll still be wholesalers and importers and retailers and such, but you look what happened. A lot of the I saw Milano in California, a big
yeah,
chemical grower, basically put a container out on the street and opened up a market,
yeah,
farmers market, if you will. They have to move their product, and if your traditional chains of distribution is interrupted, you got to do something. And
yeah,
so I believe consumers are now closer to producers.
yeah. And that's for sure. That's actually what happened in Holland as well. A lot of growers started to sell their products themselves. Uh, but the other thing was in Holland, the florists were still open. So
Right.
that was something different. I mean, in the US, the florists were closed, and then you really need to get rid of your product and try to sell it. In Holland, of course, we're producing more than we sell in Holland, so that's why a lot of growers started to sell themselves as well. But yeah, not every flower store was as happy with it.
Mm.
Actually, about garden centers, Caroline is saying UK garden center sales huge too since last Wednesday. Plus, florists have been selling a lot of garden plants too. Yeah, that's what we hear all over Europe as well, all over the US as well. It's great news. I think it's unexpected, but hey, let's enjoy it and take
Yeah.
this chance.
Well, flowers. Flowers are magic, as we know, right?
Yeah,
They possess something, and I think that's why, for the most part, the flower industry has been fairly resilient over hundreds of years. The desire for flowers, I think, is strong enough that people will go out of their way.
yeah. So you've been around for many years in the floral industry. You see some changes now already, and of course, you don't have a glass ball to see what's going to happen in the future. But are there some things you see happening?
Well, what's been happening, and I suspect will continue to happen. Consolidation. Okay, so wholesalers have been buying up smaller wholesalers, and importers and growers have been buying up other growers. You don't, at least in South America, you don't hear as much about it because the deals are done. The farm suddenly is now being owned by somebody else. So,
Yeah,
but but I think also what's happening. I believe some perhaps bit more than they can chew, and suddenly now you have a downturn in revenue and different things. So, I mean, there's some rumors on the street about some American wholesalers that aren't going to make it. I don't know. I hope it's not true, but
yeah,
it could be. Um, Certainly, I think there will be some downsizing.
yeah,
I think some of them have gotten too big, and therefore you can't cover all your bases. It's one thing when you have tons of flowers and tons of production And let's face it, for the most part, there's overproduction. There's more flowers than grown that people can consume at this point.
Yeah.
So you have to do something, and therefore people, I think there will be some retraction or downsizing, if you will.
Yeah.
And at the same time, companies that are well positioned will take advantage and pick up, perhaps another company or another branch.
Yeah. Yeah, in Holland last week we had the news as well that two big export companies, OZ Export and Hamifleurs, are checking the possibilities of working more and more together. They're both DFG, Dutch Flower Group companies, so you see it happening in Holland as well now.
Yeah, well, look what we've seen. Look at Doom and Orange. Doom and Orange is buying everybody they can find. Everybody's willing to sell.
Yeah.
The Dutch Flower Group has been very aggressive around the world.
Yeah.
So, I think that trend will continue. There's opportunities, as we all know, in these bad times. There's opportunities, and the smart people or well-financed people will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing, well, I don't know. I probably would say the industry was going to contract, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the demand for flowers will persist and move forward.
Let's hope that this renewed interest for flowers and plants will continue. I think that would be great.
Absolutely. It should. Let's hope.
Yeah, and let's hope growers can get a little bit of a better price for their products as well, because they've been producing for many, many years. And while everything in price went up, I think the prices of flowers only went down the last, I think already 50 years.
They keep going down, yes. And somehow the business goes on. So everybody gets a bit more efficient. I'm always amazed when I travel to Holland and go to some greenhouses, and there's a gigantic greenhouse run by 3 people and a computer. Yeah. And versus going to South America and you see, 1,000 people. Obviously the dynamics are different, and the Dutch were forced to do this because they couldn't get labor.
Yep.
And but it really shows that you can be more and more and more and more efficient. South America has the benefit of labor and water and land and such.
Yeah. Yeah, and climate. I mean, but it stops at a certain point. I mean, in Holland, tulips are grown already in several layers in a greenhouse or in some greenhouses. It stops at a certain moment. And I mean, flowers is about emotion. And emotion, you can't put a price on emotion.
Yes. And, in my last report, I mentioned that they were having floods in Africa, Bless the rains down in Africa, Toto said, but I think it's a problem. The people around Lake Navasha there built their greenhouses below. There's some word, I forget it is, some line that basically says don't build below here, this level of sea level, and they did apparently, and they got flooded.
Yeah, and that's Lake Navasha was quite dry for many, many years. And now it's a bit above average, and you see that some some growers have major problems at the moment over there.
Yeah, you see people in boats in the greenhouses. It's never a good sign.
No, except when you're growing water lilies, but that was not the case.
Yeah, and I was traveling to Africa. In fact, I should be going there next week, but it's not happening. And the lake has been really low, so I guess they gave them some false security. But as we know, it's not anymore.
No, it's nature, and it does what it wants.
Anybody want to ask us any questions? Because I'm,
Yeah, Jan Aasman is saying.
Thank you, riparian land. Yes, thank you.
Riparian land.
So, English word, apparently.
Yeah, no, that's a shame, of course, that it's happening in Africa. I mean, they already had a lot of rain, then they got the COVID crisis. And now they get this again. So they're
and they have the locust plague as well. Yeah. But at least I verified they're not in the greenhouses, or that's more of an outdoor crop problem. But yeah.
Yeah, but still. Caroline, she is saying, is the price pressure not possibly down to the massive market players pushing them down?
Well, Yeah, of course. It's eroding their margins.
Yeah,
And I don't know quite. I've never figured out how bouquet makers can make a living. They basically do it in volume because the supermarkets, as we know, as we say, the prices have been gone down instead of up for the most part.
yeah.
So you got to get that margin somewhere. So it's really in volume. Now, if you don't have the volume that we once had, the margins might, they may have to be, flowers may be more expensive. I think they're going to be because the airplanes and different things. And
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not sure quite how this is all going to fan out from a cost perspective or price.
Yeah, and it's in Holland. I don't know on other places in the world, but in Holland, most of the export companies are working with a margin as well, certain percentage. They should benefit from it as well when the flowers are more expensive. I mean, 10% of 10 cents is less than 10% of 20 cents.
Yep.
So in the end, everybody should benefit from it. And I mean, still, it's the most affordable gift, like Peter Landman is saying. It's flowers. And we can do so much with it. Yeah, stop competing on price.
Yeah, and I think in general, flowers are perceived as being expensive. I think that's and I perceive them as being expensive, and I'm in the business. Okay, so I could say I changed my mind. I think because of this situation, and like I said, the wife buying flowers and putting them in the house. I got the value. I get it.
Yeah.
And I should have gotten a long time ago, but again, I got it.
Problem is the pricing of the flowers goes up and down sometimes. And if in the supermarket you see, a dozen of roses for $10 because there's an action, and the next week you see them for $20, you think they are expensive. There was one, also Peter Landman was saying, why don't you add 5 extra roses for the same price? So keep them the $20, but give them 5 roses extra.
Right.
Then everybody knows, okay, it's a dozen of roses is $20. I mean, only if people see, last week it was cheaper, then they will start complaining about the price.
Yeah, right. Why is it cheaper?
James, but without the mass market outlets, many flower producers and those who handle the flowers would not be in business. That's true.
Oh yeah, look, the supermarkets have done a great job. Let's face it.
Yeah.
When I was early on in the business, we would deal with gladiola growers here, and at the end of the season, they would send all these boxes to go to a supermarket, and we're like, "What are they?" And you look inside, and they were really shitty looking flowers. Sorry, they're really yucky looking flowers. And they would say, "Oh yeah, we send whatever's left over to the supermarket." And that's sort of how supermarkets began, or at least they had some product. And I remember when I was selling flowers, I didn't point out that I worked for a wholesaler and I worked for an importer, so I have a sort of a broad. I haven't worked for the retail part, but I've been in lots of broad parts of the business. And I remember I was talking to a supermarket trying to sell her some flowers, and I said, "Well, do you want the wholesale version, the wholesalers, or do you want what the supermarkets get?" She said, "I want what the wholesalers are getting. They're getting better flowers than me." And I said, "Yeah, they're paying better than you are." And then that would change their attitude. They started paying a little more, and now I would suggest almost, other than length, the best products are going to the supermarkets because they're open, they're convenient, they're priced right. They've always had the advantage of being open.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to somebody's dinner party, you can stop at the local supermarket and probably find something for 10 or 20 bucks that suits your purpose. If you had to go to the retail floors at that moment, you'd have to order in advance. That's just the nature of the beast. And I think during this crisis, of course, the supermarkets were open. You could go buy if you could find anything, but you could probably find a little bit of flowers.
Yeah, that's true. So it's really great for the flower business that supermarkets started to work with flowers as well. Of course, some florists didn't make it. The florists that differentiate themselves from the supermarkets will survive for sure as well. It's really great. I mean, it was very good for the business. We got much more volumes going or getting sold.
Yes. The biggest
Yeah.
companies are the bouquet makers, let's face it. The biggest growers,
Yeah.
the biggest companies, for the most part, are those that, got into that business and made it work.
Yeah, that's for sure. And actually, let's hope that COVID-19 brings another boost to the flower business as well. That everybody is interested in flowers again. They don't want a concrete. How do you say it? So a garden anymore to park their cars. They want to have some flowers and plants and maybe some vegetables in there as well. I mean,
Yeah, tear the concrete up. The dirt is good. I like putting my fingers in the dirt, and that's probably why I like the flower business, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of farmers.
Yeah.
They be gentlemen farmers, but they're not afraid to get their hands dirty.
No, and it's let's hope that the people start to do that again as well, and that it gives the whole industry a big boost in the end.
I hope so as well.
Yeah. Is there anything I forgot to ask, Willie, or that you want to add to this conversation?
Well, no. I guess I'm happy that you're doing this. And truth be told, you asked me one day, who should you interview? And my first instinct was to say me, of course, but it didn't. and the reason was because I had thought about doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay? And I didn't want to give up all my secrets and all my good connections. But, what you're doing starts to sound too much like work.
It actually is.
A lot of work and a lot of coordination, and I respect what you're doing, because it's not easy. I've done pieces of it. So there is something I could do before I say goodbye. First, I want to show you that I'm a woodworker. So I made a nice bowl here yesterday, and
I've seen it on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a nice thing to do. It's a good time to have a lot of hobbies. And one other hobby that I have that most people sort of like is this. Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think there are some more music videos of you on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch. I keep trying to be famous, but I don't want to be famous. But it'd be nice if somebody listened to the music. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
I have fun doing it. I wrote my Circus song, but I haven't published it yet. So when I get a chance, I'll put it up on YouTube.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining.
All right. Thanks everybody for.
James is happy.
All this stuff. Check it out. So now you know a little bit more about me. Check out flowersandscents.com. And if you're not on my mailing list, send me an email or just register at the site, and I'll put you on the mailing list.
Okay. And everybody, thank you for watching. Tomorrow you got Stefan de Hoog from Antura, telling all about Anturium, the story behind the Anturiums. As we already discussed a couple of times, it's all about storytelling. So let's hear from Stefan tomorrow about Anturiums. Thank you for watching.
Okay, tot ziens.
Tot ziens.